Good morning, class. Today we are dealing with an important topic known as translation. As we are very familiar with the previous topic of molecular biology, it will start with the replication where DNA copies itself, following with the transcription where a DNA will be converted into the single stranded RNA, and now the final dogma of your molecular biology is translation, where your RNA will be finally encoded with the amino acid into a polypeptide chain. So, simply speaking, translation is a process in which a sequence of nucleotide triplets in a messenger RNA give rise to a specific sequence of amino acid and which will incorporate into the polypeptide chain of a protein. So this translation in the eukaryotes will occur in the cytosol and it will be guided by the messenger RNA. And this translation process will be studied in following 5 stages. One is activation of amino acids, second one is initiation, elongation, termination, and next final process is the folding and processing. Coming to the step 1, activation of amino acids, where this can be said as, or this can be known as activation of tRNA, where a amino acid will bind with the tRNA and converts into the amino acid tRNA. For this we required an amino acid, a tRNA, and ATP molecule is required. This will be catalyzed by enzyme known as amino acid tRNA synthetase. So each enzyme amino acid tRNA synthetase will specific for each amino acid. So total 20 amino acids are required, and one enzyme can encode for more than one tRNA. So there are 31 amino acids tRNAs are present. So this will be guided by 20 amino acid tRNA synthetases. Here the tRNA, which will have your 3 prime end, this 3 prime end will have the hydroxyl group. That hydroxyl group will be binds with the amino acid of carboxyl group and forms your uh, activated tRNA known as amino acid tRNA. Simply speaking, amino acid will bind with the tRNA at the 3 prime end, forming amino acid tRNA. It will require energy molecule that will be provided by ATP, and magnesium act as a coenzyme, and the complete reaction is catalyzed by amino acid tRNA synthetase, and this reaction will take place in the cytosol. And next one is initiation process. In the initiation, it requires various initiating factors. In case of prokaryotes, initiating factor 1, 2, 3 are required. In case of eukaryotes, we required all minimum 10 eukaryotic initiating factors are involved in the initiation process. So this initiation, for our convenience, can be divided into the 4 steps. One is dissociation of ribosome, where a ATS ribosome will be cleaved and cleaved and dissociated into 40S and 60S subunits. And second stage, where this 40S subunit will bind with the a ternary complex. This ternary complex will consisting of an initiating methionine tRNA1, GTP, and initiating factor 2. So this combination of your 40S ribosome with association of ternary complex will forms the 43S pre-initiation complex. In the next one, this 43S pre-initiation complex will get attached with the mRNA and forms the 48S initiating complex. This is one of the crucial step. And finally, this 48S complex will bind with the 60S ribosomal unit and forms ATS initiation complex. So we will discuss in detail one by one. The first one is the dissociation of ATS ribosome into 40S and 60S subunits. So we all knew the ribosomes, which is a larger unit is known as 60S subunits and a smaller unit is known as 40S subunits. So in this, the initial step is the binding of your initiating factor 3 and 1A. By the attachment of these two factors to the 40S ribosomes, it will be get dissociated and 60S ribose will be removed and 40S ribosome will get in contact with your initiating factor 3 and initiating factor 1A. So once these two factors are get in contact with your 40S subunits, this will further prevents the reassociation of these 60S and 40S subunits. Hence, the initiating factor 3 is also known as anti-association factor. And in the next one, that is attachment of ternary complex with the 40S subunit, which will forms the 43S pre-initiation complex. For this I kept one slide here, that is known as formation of 43S pre-initiation complex. Here the ternary complex, which is consisting of methionine tRNA, this methionine tRNA stands for the tRNA which is encoded with the AUG amino acid or initiating codon. Next, this will bind with the GTP and initiating factor 2. Now this MET tRNA, GTP and initiating factor 2, all these will get in attached with the 40S ribosome, and that will result in the formation of 43S pre-initiation complex. Already the initiation factor 1A and initiating factor 3 are in contact with the 40S initiation complex, so that will stabilizes this complex. And here you need to remember one thing, that the MET tRNA can be of two types. One is known as MET-tRNA-I and MET-tRNA-2. The MET-tRNA 1 is also known as the MET-tRNA initiator, because it will encodes for the initiation and responsible for your initiating of translation, whereas if a same tRNA is encoded with the AUG methyl or MET, that will be responsible for the coding of your methionine. And hence the here what I am saying is MET tRNA specifically involved in the binding to the initiation codon AUG, hence the superscript I is used in MET tRNA I. And next one is the formation of 48 initiation complex. This step is very crucial. Here the mRNA which will have the 5 prime end and 3 prime end. So we already known in the 3 prime end it will be polyadenylated, whereas in the 5 prime end it will be capped with the methionine groups, M group, right? So at the 5 prime end this will be associated with the a protein known as cap binding protein, CBP. How this CBP is formed is, this is CBP also known as initiating factor 4 complex, which will be forming by the attachment of your initiating factor 4C, 4A and 4E. So these three complexes association together will result in the formation of cap binding protein. Generally this cap binding protein will be attached to the 5 prime end and it will recognize your AUG codon present on the mRNA. Next, the binding of mRNA to the 40S pre-initiation complex will result in the formation of 48 initiation complex through the intermediate 43 initiation complex. Simply speaking, whatever the 43S complex we already present on the cytosol, that will be binding with the your mRNA which is capsulated or attached with your cap binding protein, that will result in the 48S initiation complex. Then the initiating factor 4A and 4B, which are binds to the mRNA, will reduce its complex structure, and this mRNA is then transferred to the 43S complex. For appropriate association of 43S pre-initiation complex with mRNA, energy has to be supplied. The same thing is crucial. So once again, I am explaining you on this chart. So the mRNA, which will have the 5 prime end and 3 prime end. The 5 prime end generally it will be methylated, and the A prime 3 prime end will be polyadenylated. So this will be binds to the your initiating factor 4A, that will be consisting of initiating factor 4E, 4G and 4A. So this together we are calling it as cap binding protein. Once this cap binding protein is get in contact with your mRNA, your this mRNA now will bind with the 43S pre-initiation complex, and already your initiating factor 4A and 4G will be get in contact with the mRNA. This will prevent the further complexity of your mRNA, and ATP will able to provide energy which is required, and finally this will incorporated into the 43S complex, result in the formation of your 48S pre-initiation or initiating complex. Now in the final stage, this 48S initiation complex will get associated with the 60S ribosomal subunit and forms the 80S initiating complex, and this binding will requires the energy molecule that will be provided by hydrolysis of GTP, which are binded by the initiating factor 2 by the initiating factor 5. As the ATS complex is formed, the initiation factors which are bounded on the 48S complex, that is initiating complex 2, complex 4, complex 1, complex initiating factor 5, all will be released and they will be recycled, and once again they will take part in the formation of your 40S pre-initiation complex and other complexes. And the activation of initiating factor 2 requires initiating factor 2B. This is also known as guanine nucleotide exchange factor and GTP. The activated initiating factor 2 requires initiating factor 2C to form the ternary complex. These are present on the 43S initiation complex. They will be removed, they will be released, they will be recycled. Once again, they will be takes part in the initiation cycles. The same thing is explained here. I will explain you. So here this is your 48S initiation complex. This will bind with the 60S complex, and here you can see initiating complex 1, 2, 3, 1A, 5. All these will be released from the initiation 43 as well as 60S ribosomes, and this initiating factor 2 will bind with the GDP. They will be further recycled and bind with the your met tRNA, and it will forms the ternary complex. This ternary complex once again reutilized for the formation of 43S pre-initiation complex. Likewise, all these complexes are able to utilize forms the various complexes. They will be released, they will be recycled and once again utilized. So this will complete your initiation stage, where it will be regulated by most importantly factor 4F, that is known as cap binding protein, because the initiating factor 4F is a complex formed by the assembly of three initiation factors, that is 4E, 4A and 4C. Initiation, the translation process. The initiating factor 4E, a component of 4F, is a primarily responsible for the recognition of mRNA cap. and this step is the rate limiting in translation, whereas initiating factor 2, which is involved in the formation of 43s initiation pre-initiation complex. Simply speaking, the whole initiation process will be depends on your cap binding protein, which will be useful in the activation of mRNA. And second stage, or rather it is a third stage, that is elongation of translation. Once the initiation phase is done, now the mRNA and tRNA are in active stage. Now whatever the mRNA brings the genetic information in the form of nucleotides, that had to be in and coded by your tRNA, and it has to bring the specific amino acid, and that has to be placed on the ribosomes. That is a process known as elongation. So in the elongation, ribosomes elongate the polypeptide chain by a sequential addition of amino acids. These amino acids will be brought by your tRNAs, and the amino acid sequence will be determined by the order of codons present on the mRNA. So this elongation can be further divided into three steps, that is binding of amino acid tRNA to the A site, and peptide bond formation, and finally translocation. The same in the initiation, we are required various initiating factors. The same way in elongation also we required certain elongation factors, 1, 2, 3, likewise, right? So before that, I would like to state one more thing. The ribosomes will have three different sites. They are known as E, T, E, and A. That is exit, peptidyl, and amino acid site. So whatever the initiation complex is there, which is encoded with the initiating met tRNA, now this met tRNA is located in the P site. So in the second stage, that is elongation process, what happens? Let's see here. The first one is binding of amino acid tRNA to the A site. That stands for, now the second activated amino acid has to come and join at the A site of the ribosomes. Just now I mentioned that the met tRNA is present at the P site, which is present in the between, whereas A site is kept vacant, whereas E site is also remained vacant. So now in the second elongation process, one more tRNA which is activated with the amino acid will be comes and bind at the A site of the ribosomes. So the ATS initiation complex contains met tRNAi in the P site, and A site is free. That I already told you. Another amino acid tRNA is placed on the A site. This requires proper codon recognition on the mRNA and the involvement of elongation factor 1A, and supply of energy will be provided by GTP. As the amino acid tRNA is placed in the A site, the elongation factor 1D and GDP will be removed, and they will be recycled, and they will bring one more amino acid tRNA. You can see in the picture. See, for example, here we are having the this is the ribosome consisting of your P site, A site, and E site. So when the elongation process is started, at that point the A site was free, and only P site will consisting of the this amino acid met tRNA. So once it will be activated, the elongation factor 1A is required. Along with that, we required an activated tRNA. This activated tRNA will consisting of amino acid that will be guided by your triplet codon present on the mRNA. So this activated amino acid will comes and attach at the active site. For this attachment, we requires energy that will be provided by GTP, right? Once this amino acid is get in contact with your uh, at the A site along with tRNA, this process will be done. Now next process is known as peptide bond formation. Here the peptide bond will be created between the amino acid present at the P site and the amino acid present at the A site. Or simply speaking, now this tRNA gradually moves to the, actually the ribosome will move to the 3' direction. That will causes the removal of tRNA present at the P site to the E site, and A site tRNA will be transferred to the P site. Before that, there will be a bond formation between the amino acid present at the P site and amino bond between the and amino acid present at the A site. For this, we required an enzyme known as peptidyl transferase. This peptidyl transferase is present on the 60S ribosome of a 20S RNA, and please do remember it is not a protein, it is a type of RNA which is having a catalytic action. This will helps in the formation of peptide bond. Important point, please remember the 20S RNA which is act as an enzyme which will create a peptide bond between the amino acid present at the P site and A site. As the amino acid in the amino acid tRNA is already activated, so no additional energy is required for the peptide bond formation. The net result of peptide bond formation is the attachment of growing peptide chain to the tRNA in the A site. And next one is translocation. I already mentioned as the peptide bond formation occurs, the ribosome along with your 60S and 40S that will be moves towards the next codon towards 3' direction. This process is called as translocation. Basically involves the movement of growing peptide chain from A site to P site. So here, for example, I am writing here, otherwise you better see here. This is the 3' direction, this is your 5' direction. So once here a tRNA is present, so here for example already 4 amino acids are encoded. There is a bond between 5th and 6th amino acid, and the tRNA which is encoding will be encoded for the 4th amino acid is removed from the P site to the E site. Gradually it will be removed. So if you remember, the amino acid which is not contact with the the tRNA which is not contact with the amino acid are known as uncharged tRNA. That uncharged tRNA will be transported to the E site. From there it will be gradually leaves, whereas the remaining will be present at the P site. Now the P site will be comes to the E site, whereas A site one will be comes to the P site. Likewise, the amino acid tRNAs will be gradually comes and attach at the A site, from A site to the P site, from P site to the E site, whereas the amino acids will be grow at the P site of the ribosomes. And the translocation of the ribosomes required energy that will be provided by GTP and an initiating factor known as initiating factor 2. The GTP get hydrolyzed and supply energy which is responsible move of your mRNA, and initiating factor and GTP will be further recycled and will be utilized for your translocation. And this is the same thing I mentioned. This is the incoming tRNA, whereas this is the outgoing empty tRNA, P site, A site, and there is a growth of peptide chain at the P site. And finally, translation. After several cycles of elongation, once the polypeptide chain is growing length, uh, in incorporating of amino acids and the formation of specific protein or polypeptide molecule. One of the stop codon, it may be UAA, UAG or UCA, terminate the growing polypeptide. How the termination takes place, we'll see. The termination codon acts on the acts as a stop signal. They do not have any specific tRNA to bind. So I already mentioned that tRNA will continuously brings the amino acid and get attached to the A site. But when you get the termination codon, there is no tRNA is present to bind at the A site. So rather, this will be recognized by your a termination factor known as ERF, or known as eukaryotic releasing factor, that will be added at the A site of your ribosomes, and that causes the termination. So let me read out. As the termination codon occupies at the ribosomal A site, the releasing factor, namely releasing factor, recognize the stop signal. The releasing factor GTP complex in association with the enzyme peptidyl transferase cleaves the peptide bond between the polypeptide and tRNA occupying at the P site. So simply the polypeptide chain will grows in the P site. Whenever the stop codon approaches, the stop codon will be present at the A site. This will be recognized by your releasing factor. Releasing factor along with the GTP will get in contacted, that will causes the activation of enzyme ribosyl transferase, that will be causes the releasing of your mRNA and GTP, where as well as ribosomes. So the polypeptide will be removed, the mRNA will be removed, and your tRNA also removed. So this GTP along with the releasing factor, once again they will be recycled and they will act on the one more translation process. So in this reaction, instead of your amino acid, a water molecule is added. The hydrolysis will release the protein tRNA from the P site, as well as protein also released from the P site only. The ATS ribosome will be dissociated into 40S and 60S subunits, which are recycled. The mRNA is released. And finally, the polypeptide or protein, which is synthesized by your translation, has to be undergoes for the proper three-dimensional structure for its active form. Because in the biological system, all the proteins are not active in the primary or secondary structure. For that, it has to be undergo for the conformational changes. These conformational changes will be takes part in presence of a element known as chaperones. If these chaperones are not present, so the polypeptide chain will not be able to converts into folding forms. So we'll see what is protein folding and what is the post translational modification in a brief. In the next class, I will explain you what are all the protein sorting or protein targeting techniques, or else what are the post translation process. But as if now we are here to explain you what is chaperones and types of chaperones. So in order to achieve the biologically active form of polypeptide, it has to be undergo for the proper three-dimensional conformations. So before or after folding the polypeptide may undergoes enzymatic process, including removal of one or more amino acids or addition of acetyl, phosphoryl, carboxyl, methyl or other groups to certain amino acid residues, or else it may go for the proteolytic cleavage or attachment of oligosaccharides or prosthetic group. So the chaperones will help to produce the correct spatial arrangement. Chaperones attach to the polypeptide chains and prevents the misfolding or wrong foldings. So the folding of polypeptide is allowed only in the correct direction, and chaperones also helps in the assembly of tertiary or quaternary structure of your proteins. These chaperones mainly categorized into two major groups. One is known as heat shock protein or HSP70 system, or known as chaperonin system. The HSP system, mainly the HSP stands for heat shock protein and 70 stands for the molecular density of the protein. This is mainly consisting of heat shock 70 or 70 kilodalton heat shock protein and 40 heat shock proteins. These proteins will individually bind with the proteins and helps in the correct formation of protein foldings. Whereas chaperone system, these are the large molecules, and to this only your polypeptide chain or protein will be attached and get into various folds. Or let me explain, this is a large oligomeric assembly which forms a structure into folded proteins will be inserted. The chaperone system mainly has a heat shock protein 60 and heat shock protein 10. The chaperones are required at a later part of the protein folding process and often work as in association with the heat shock protein 70 system. And in sometimes you may have the protein misfolding that will leads to the various autosomal recessive diseases we will see in the neurological, or else we will see in the cystic fibrosis. So the failure of a protein to fold properly generally leads to the its rapid degeneration. Cystic fibrosis is a common autosomal recessive disease. Some cases of cystic fibrosis with mutation that results in the altered protein known as cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator, or in short CFTR, have been reported. The mutated CFTR cannot fold properly, besides not being able to get glycosylated or transported. Therefore, your cystic fibrosis CFTR will be gets degraded. The same thing, certain neurological diseases which are due to cellular accumulation of aggregates of misfold proteins are there partially degraded. Products also been identified. So in some neurological condition, if the protein is not properly folded, for example, this is the quaternary structure. If this protein is not able to completely folded into quaternary structure, the if misfolding is happen, so this causes the rapid degeneration of proteins. These degenerated rapid proteins are also known as prions or protein infectious proteins. These will be accumulated in your brain and central nervous system, may manifested as a neurological disorders. So that completes today's class. So in next class we will see about the post translation modification and protein targeting. Thank you. Control